Welcome to this session, which is somewhat abbreviated, so only 2 talks in the session before our break and the workshop later on. So first of all, please join me in welcoming Satoko Shirai from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies for a talk entitled Prosody of Topic and Focus in Drapa.
Am I the first? Maybe.
Are you the? Am I?
Yuli is first,
you
Dr.
are.
Peterson.
Oh, great. Oh, now I've screwed up the recording. Unfortunately, I wrote your names down backwards. So, so first up is, excuse me, Yuli from University at Buffalo.
Yeah, SUNY Buffalo.
And so, do you have a? Do you want to share your screen?
Oh, sure. I can.
There we go.
All right, so everybody can see my screen share.
Yes.
Let me turn the video off. All right, so for some reason I see the small screens on the right hand side of my screen. So let me find a way to turn this off. It's a little bit annoying. So wait a second. Okay. All right. So welcome to my presentation. Today, I'm going to talk about my work on the differential case marking system in Zauzou. Okay, to begin with, a brief overview of the case marking patterns in Tibetan languages. So TB languages feature employing case marking systems deviating from the traditional ergative, absolutive, or nominative accusative patterns. So one of the aerial feature of TB languages is the semantic pragmatic-based case marking, which means viable definitions for grammatical relations are resisted. So optional case marking is another aerial feature of TB languages. So overt case markers are often used for disambiguation. Moreover, differential case marking is also widely attested in TB languages. So the differential argument marking, DAM, is often termed as DCM, differential case marking, which is defined as any kind of situation where an argument of a predicate bear the same generalized semantic role may be coded in different ways. So it contains several subtypes, including differential object marking, differential agent marking, and differential subject marking, as well as the ambiguity-driven differential object marking, ADDOM. Okay, so the language of Zauzou. This is a Laloich language, classified as a vulnerable language by UNESCO. In 2012, there are approximately 3,300 speakers living in China. So the majority of the Zauzou speakers are populated in the Lanping County and the Lushui County in Yunnan, China. The field site of my field work, where I collected the data for this paper, is in the Jiangmo village in the Tuo Township, Lanping County. So the data source includes both elicited and the naturalistic recordings. All right, typologically, Zauzou is a typical isolating and SOV language. It employs a number of case postpositions, including the agent, causer, instrumental, and ablative marker he, one patient postposition all, a commutative postposition k, and 2 comparative postpositions de and tie. Some of those are obligatorily used, but the agent causer marker he and the patient marker all are optionally used in this course. So the subject marking, the postposition hey in general marks the micro role of actor in terms of RG. The hey marked argument is linked from the left edge of a causal chain in terms of Croft 1991, which characterize activities in the initial phase of the event or the source. So the hey marked arguments contains both ultimate and proximate causes, as these two types of causes are not morphologically distinguished in Zauzou. So some examples of using hey in the sentence. So the first example, the woman at the dish, here the human agent, which is both the ultimate and the proximate cause of the resulting status of the dish is marked by hey. And in number 2, this causative construction, the rain makes the river rise. So the inanimate causer, the rain, is also marked by hey. This is the ultimate cause of the rise of the river. And the instrument is also marked by hey. As can be seen in 3, this person uses his hands to push him off. So here we see both agent and the instrument, the body part, his hands are marked by hey. So hey is restricted to monotransitive and ditransitive clauses in elicited data, as can be seen in 4. So to express the base intransitive meaning, he ran away, the agent marker hey is rejected by most speakers. So we can only say do dahuza rather than do he dahuza. But once we caustivize this intransitive clause, we will get 5. He caused someone to run away. So the third person pronoun becomes a causer in 5, which can be marked by hey. However, in natural discourse, hey can be used in intransitive clauses to mark the discourse pragmatic focus. This is illustrated in 6. If this one dies, I will stop being a doctor. So in the first clause, the single argument of the verb die is marked by hey. Although it is a non-volitional actor, non-volitional undergoer of the verb die, but it is still marked by hey in order to emphasize it is the pragmatic focus in the discourse. Agentivity distinction is not manifested on the subject marking, but rather reflected by the object marker on. Examples in 6 illustrate this distinction. So in 6a, the sentence implies I intentionally murdered the dog. The agentive animate causer, mu, first person singular I, is overly marked by hey. Similarly, in 6b, the sentence implies I unintentionally killed the dog. The non-agentive animate causer, mu, still marked by hey. But only difference between the two sentences is the object marking, as we will see get back to this point in the following slides. In 6c, when the sentence contains a non-agentive inanimate causer, like the ball hit woman, the ball, this inanimate causer is also marked by hey. Then move to the differential object marking, which is often characterized as anti-ergative marking in Tibeto-Burman languages. So anti-ergative marking is the prevalent pattern of object marking in TB. In Zauzou, semantic roles marked by all includes patient, causee, affectee, recipient, and the beneficiary. There are 2 semantic pragmatic constraints on the occurrence of all. One is the effectiveness constraint, which requires the or marked arguments to undergo certain degree of effectiveness. The second is the specificity constraints, which requires the object to be encoded by a specific NP. The first constraint, the effectiveness, it requires the or marked objects to be affected in the event. For instance, in 7, the woman added the tiger. The patient of eat is the tiger, which is overly marked by all here. In 8, this causative construction, the causee, which is encoded by the third person singular do, is also marked by all because this causee is affected in this telling event. And in 9, in this ditransitive construction, I sent him a bottle of wine. The third person singular pronoun is the recipient, which is also affected in this transfer event. Thus, it is marked by all as well. Then the second constraint, the specificity of the object. This constraint requires the object to be encoded by a specific NP. For instance, in 10 and 11, we see the same patient of Q are encoded by 2 different NPs. One is the specific NP, the other one is the non-specific object. And in 10, I kill him the third person singular pronoun here is refers to a specific person in this course. Therefore, it is marked by all without any problem. But in 11, during the new year, every family kills pigs to eat. So, pig here is encoded by a bare noun, which only denotes a noun class rather than a specific entity in the discourse. Therefore, all cannot be marked by all. And sa here only characterize an habitual activity, killing pigs, rather than a dynamic event. For common nouns, a specific NP usually requires the object to be quantified by a classifier in order to be referential. So this is illustrated in 12 and 13. The affectee is encoded as a specific reference in 12. So Yuval, I told him to drink that medicine. With the presence of the classifier, so the medicine becomes a specific reference in the discourse. It refers to either a specific kind of medicine or a specific amount of medicine, but it is referential in the specific discourse. So Yuva, the medicine in 12 has no problem to take the or marking, but in 13, when the classifier is absent, then the bare noun you cannot take the or marking because the sentence can only be interpreted as I told him to drink medicine, referring to a noun class, the medicine in general. Therefore, it cannot be marked by all. And agentivity is often closely related to the effectiveness of the object. So the minimal pair in 6 is repeated here. 6a expresses the meaning of I intentionally murdered the dog. In this case, the undergoer, the patient dog, is overly marked by or the patient marker. And the sentence is encoded as a transitive clause, since the resulting event, the death of the dog, is directly related to my actions, the causing event. But in 6b, in this unintentional event, so I unintentionally, accidentally killed the dog. The literal translation of the sentence is because of me, the dog died. So there's no direct causal relation between these two, the causing and the resulting events. So the death of the dog is understood as a spontaneous resulting status. Therefore, dog, the or marking in 6b is disallowed. And the sentence is encoded as an intransitive one. Unlike he, or is also found in intransitive clauses, most typically in involuntary bodily process. Like 14, he yawns. So the single argument of yawn is both the initiator and the end point of this event. Therefore, it is at the end point of the yawning event, do the third person singular pronoun is affected in this event. Therefore, you can take the or marking. And
So,
sometimes,
there's about 5 minutes left.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes the single argument of the intransitive verb can be split into two nominal constituents, and only one constituent can take the or marking because only one constituent is considered as affected. This is the case in 15, in which the single argument of the verb sick is split into the processor and the processee, two constituents. And here only the processor, he, is marked by all, as only the person is considered as affected in this event. Okay, then move to the ambiguity-driven DOM system. As has been noted in the literature, one of the major functions of case marking is to disambiguate between the two core arguments, the subject and the object. ADDOM, ambiguity-driven differential object marking, is first proposed to describe the case marking systems in Yongren Lolo, another Loloish language. So case markers in Yongren Lolo only mark semantic rows in clauses with ambiguous predicational frames. So this is the result of the interaction of two conflicting principles, the economy principle and the marketness principle.
So
Zouzou,
3 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The ambiguity-driven differential argument marking is also attested in Zauzou. But unlike Yongren Lolo, Zauzou case marking involves both subject and object. Similar systems are common in TB, such as in honey, which has been reported and characterized in a number of papers way back to 1986. So the principle of this marking pattern is case marking is only obligatory in ambiguous predicational frames. So in ambiguous frames, at least one marker is required, but in unambiguous frames, both case markers are optional. So see the examples in Zauzou. In ambiguous predicational frames, in principle, at least one core argument needs an overt case marker. So sentences from 16 to 18 illustrate 3 different marking patterns for the same sentence, the woman at the tiger. In 16, only the human agent is overtly marked by he. In 17, it is the object, the tiger, overtly marked by all. And 18, both arguments are marked by he and all respectively. However, in discourse, it is commonly found that this principle is violated as speakers tend to use word order or other contextual information to identify the roles, and both he and all markers are absent in discourse. So in unambiguous predicational frames, both he and all are optional, as the two roles can be distinguished by semantic features like animacy, and this is the case for 19 and 20. So in 19, it contains an animate S and an inanimate object, the woman at the dish. This sentence is unambiguous because it is only possible for animate S acts on the inanimate object. And similarly in 20, it is only possible for the human see the inanimate object, not the tree see a woman. Therefore, both case markers in these two sentences are optional. Okay, maybe you can skip over this slide. And in this principle, this marking patterns is also followed in nature discourse, as in 22. So in the second clause, the human agent is expressed by zero anaphora, but the only noun phrase, the basketball, is still unmarked because the predicational frame of throw is unambiguous. And we only expect that the humans throw the ball rather than the ball throw anything. So therefore, the basketball here is unmarked. So compare anti-ergative marking and the Zauzou object marking. So anti-ergative marking typically distinguishes agents and the non-agents. This is pragmatic based. Though the object marking is similar to the anti-ergative marking in many other TB languages, but it employs two additional semantic constraints. And the Zauzou object marker distinguishes unmarked objects, the affected specific non-agents, and the unmarked objects. The object marking is still semantic based on the semantics of the event, but the object marker per se is not used for disambiguation. All right, so the last slide. To conclude, as we know that the differential argument marking is widely distributed in Tibeto-Burman languages. So the agentive ergative marking and the object anti-ergative marking patterns in TB are normally characterized as two separate systems. But the Zauzou data seems to suggest that the two systems form a unified case marking system, governed by one single pragmatic constraint. So in Zauzou, the subject marker He optionally marks agent causal instrument, irrespective of agentivity and ergativity. It generally marks pragmatic focus. The object marker O, on the other hand, only occurs to affected arguments and is restricted to specific reference. And the realization of He and Or in discourse is governed by ambiguity of the predicational frame. So the principle is in ambiguous frames, at least one marker is required for disambiguation, but in unambiguous frames, both are optional. However, this principle is often violated in discourse, and as speakers tend to rely on word order or other semantic pragmatic clues to disambiguate S and O. So the Zauzou ADDM system is the result of the interaction between the language internal semantic constraints on the object and the pragmatic constraints, especially the interactions between the principle of distinguishability and the economy, which drives the ambiguity-driven case marking patterns. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. So we have one question in the chat that I see. If I'm missing something, somebody please let me know. But Manuel David Gonzalez Perez says, thanks for the detailed survey. Question, can Zauzou case postpositions ever mark whole verb phrases? For example, in Pola, South Central Yunnan, the functional equivalent of He can work as a kind of completive subordinator. There is no water, He said, for instance. The question's in the chat if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, yeah. For He, it is possible to use as a subordinator to mark a because clause, like because it is raining, then the land get wet, so it can mark can subordinate the whole because clause. But for or is also used as like sentence final, utterance final particle. I think it's the result of the grammaticalization. It's not related to the case marking function.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
So I think we have time for at least one more question. JC, you have your hand up. I guess I need to unmute you. Oh, there we go. Somebody.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk. I very much enjoyed it. I have a few sub questions, so maybe we can talk later. I would love to get your slides if I could, but one of the things that you talked about here was that in order for this type of semantic role marking to appear, the referent needs to be specific, and often they're marked as specific with the presence of this post-nominal classifier.
Yeah.
My question related to that is, do you have any guess why the referent must be specific in order to receive this marking? does it have anything to do with the potential ambiguity? Is there any pragmatic reason related to that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because I think the specificity of the noun phrases is related to the effectiveness, the telicity of the event, or many other factors involved in the event semantics. So this is a very complex issue. It is even related to the aspect, yes, but although I didn't find any evidence to support the relationship. But yes, I think you're right, because currently this is the ultimate cause I can find to account for the distribution, like the specificity of the noun phrase, because I can use this to systematically draw the distinction between where the sentence, where the object marker "or" can occur or not. Yeah, but yeah, there might be other things to look at, the correlation between this marking and the other aspect in tense aspects and the telicity, effectiveness, many other factors. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So I don't see any other hands up. Does anybody want to ask another question? So am I missing anything in the chat? Don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so so let's thank the speaker once more. Thank you very much. This is very interesting, and we will make the changes for the next speaker. Thanks. Actually, we should wait a minute or two, I think, because we're just a moment ahead of schedule.
If we still have 1 minute, then can I say something more? Because for the sake of the special session, like 2 days ago, I can share my data because I have deposited all my Zauzou data on ELAR. So if people were interested in this language or language data, I can share the links with anyone who are interested.
Miss Lee, if you want to post those links in the chat.
Oh yes, yeah, I can.
I think best for sharing for the large group of people. And then also, afterwards we'll, we can make those transcripts available for everyone else who is interested as well. Okay?
Yeah, sure, I will.
If there is more time, could I ask one small extra question?
It depends on how small it is. We really have only 1 minute. So
do you have a proposed syntactic structure for what these phrases look like or not?
So what do you mean by syntactic structure? This is a very broad notion. Do you mean grammatical relation, something like that?
I can email you.
That's a kind of big question, Jesse.
Yeah. Because what I suggest is there's no such things of like subject and object, but for this moment, I cannot come up with like better terms to characterize those semantic roles. Yeah.
Succinctly answered. Very good.